Hey guys, Max here, and somehow this business with Elon Musk and Twitter literally refuses to end, as over the last day, this entire situation has been turned on its head and everything has changed once again. Now, if you haven't seen the news, well, hopefully the title of this video should give you some kind of inclination as to what's going on, but in short, before we get into it, just a couple of days after Elon was supposedly given a board seat at Twitter, he has had it taken away from him, and the future for Twitter is suddenly looking really quite dark. Today, I'm going to quickly recap what happened over the last couple of weeks before examining what the actual news is in detail and what this means for Elon and for Twitter, so buckle up. Now, for those people who have been living under a rock, what's been happening recently regarding Twitter? Well, to grossly oversimplify a massive topic that would take hours to cover in its deserved detail, Twitter has been stifling free speech for quite some time now, and Elon Musk doesn't like that. He's hinted that he might do something to try and change that in the past and suggested that he might support a competitor or build a competitor or try to change Twitter itself. And then just over a week ago, it emerged that Elon bought 9.2% of Twitter for about $3 billion, and all of a sudden, he was the company's largest individual shareholder. Now, there was understandably a lot of controversy around this. Plenty of people are claiming that this isn't what a free market is, and they're making themselves out to be idiots, quite frankly. And then we saw Elon start tweeting loads about Twitter, plenty of it in clearly satirical, humorous ways, but some of it in very serious ways. A couple of days later, and we got news that Elon Musk would be joining the board of Twitter in an agreement with the current leadership of the company, notably the CEO Parag, in what seemed like a compromise for that side. The details of the deal weren't all apparent at first, but what was clear was that Elon would take an active role in running Twitter, that he would not be able to buy up ownership willy-nilly, and would be limited to controlling just under 15% of the shares. All was well in the world then. Elon had his board seat, Twitter's share price had pumped 54% in the space of a couple of weeks. We were getting real-time insights into what Elon wanted to change, including adding an edit button so we can get rid of those pesky typos in our tweets, and then everything came crashing down over the last day. It emerged very clearly that something was going on behind the scenes. Now, the first inclination of this was that Elon started to delete lots of his tweets, in particular the ones about Twitter itself and the changes that he wanted to make. Elon pushed the idea of a Twitter premium feature. Everyone who signs up for Twitter Blue, i.e. pays $3 a month, should get an authentication checkmark, where basically you can verify who you are to prove you aren't a bot. And no adverts. The power of corporations to dictate policy is greatly enhanced if Twitter depends on advertising money to survive. This idea in particular is really not groundbreaking, it's just following the trend of software as a service. Spotify charges a monthly fee, YouTube charges a monthly fee. A number of tech companies out there do this. They run a free platform but offer improvements if you want them for a small fee. It's ridiculous, frankly, that Twitter hasn't moved in this same direction, and it's representative of the awful management that Twitter has had for a long time now. It's easy to forget, but Twitter should be on par with Facebook in terms of its success as a business, at least in regards to how entrenched it is in the world of social media, but instead, it's stuck on par with something more akin to Snapchat. Elon isn't just pushing for Twitter to be a bastion of free speech, it's clear he can also help stop the company from getting complacent and help it to actually move forward and develop as a business as well. Then we saw Elon come out and tweet some slightly less serious proposals. Delete the W in Twitter, obviously leaving it as Titter, and convert Twitter's San Francisco headquarters to a homeless shelter since no one shows up anyway, making light of the nature of lots of these big tech jobs these days, and shedding some light onto the ridiculous homelessness problem in cities like San Francisco. Now, these and many more tweets were made by Elon, but they were all suddenly deleted, suggesting that something might have been happening behind the scenes that we weren't aware of, and Parag, the now infamous CEO of Twitter, came out with this statement here, showing us exactly what's going on. Elon Musk has decided not to join our board. Here's what I can share about what's happened. The board and I had many discussions about Elon joining the board and with Elon directly. We were excited to collaborate and clear about the risks. We also believed that having Elon as a fiduciary of the company where he, like all board members, has to act in the best interests of the company and all our shareholders was the best path forward. The board offered him a seat. We announced on Tuesday that Elon would be appointed to the board, contingent on a background check and formal acceptance. Elon's appointment to the board was to become officially effective on the 9th of April, but Elon shared that same morning that he will no longer be joining the board. I believe this is for the best. We have and always will value input from our shareholders, whether they are on board or not. Elon is our biggest shareholder and we will remain open to his input. There will be distractions ahead, but our goals and priorities remain unchanged. The decisions we make and how we execute is in our hands and no one else's. Let's tune out the noise and stay focused on the work and what we're building. Now, if it felt like that came out of nowhere, well, it did. The passage Parag tweeted didn't even make sense. He literally said it was the best path forward to have Elon on the board, and then one paragraph later, he says it's for the best if Elon isn't on the board. That is a clear contradiction within the same damn tweet, so right away, I'm going to say, I don't believe Parag at all. Now, hands in the air, I do not know what's going on behind the scenes any better than you or anyone else. I don't have a mole in the leadership of Twitter. I have access to the exact same information that you have because I don't have spies in the company, sadly enough, but I have followed this story closely and this is what I think is going on. Elon hates the way Twitter is and he wants it to change. That much should be pretty damn clear. The problem is, Twitter is the way it is because of Parag and its leadership. As a result, Elon basically wants to clear house and put people who actually know what they're doing in charge, and Parag knows this, and obviously he wants to keep his job. The board seat that was offered to Elon was a sort of peace offering designed to try and keep Elon at bay. Contingent on that board seat was that Elon doesn't buy up more than 15% of the shares in the company, that he acts in the best interest of the company's shareholders, which means that he maximizes profit and that he pass a background test as well, which seems totally absurd given the fact that Elon has to have extremely high-level security clearance to work with SpaceX. Parag thought he could give Elon a board seat and keep his ownership low enough that Elon couldn't actually oust him from the company. Elon obviously isn't stupid and realized how throttling those controls on him would be. There was probably a lot of concern going around from Parag regarding Elon's tweets, and Parag probably made some argument that Elon isn't allowed to tweet about Twitter freely as it isn't in the best interest of the company, which would explain why those tweets were taken down. Elon is now probably going to seek a hostile takeover of the company and the board, which will probably include a couple of things. Firstly, I expect Elon to keep buying up shares in Twitter. Frankly, he is so fantastically wealthy and has pretty easy access to cheap debt that he can continue to buy up shares to a pretty damn large degree. With every share that he buys, his influence over the company will increase too. Secondly, Elon will probably seek to win over the support of other shareholders to get them to vote the way he wants. For retail investors, this should be very easy, as almost every retail investor can recognize the potential influence Elon could have on Twitter and the potential to cause it to skyrocket in value like he's done with Tesla over the last couple of years. There are also large institutional investors in Twitter, companies like BlackRock, which will probably be willing to support Elon as long as he helps drive the company's growth and profitability. Supporting a proactive development case with new features like a premium feature is probably a strong way to go around that. We also have the fact that Jack, one of the founders of Twitter, owns 2% of the company, and he seems to be firmly in favor of Elon taking action as well. Parag knows this, and that last paragraph from his statement sounded like a plea to shareholders to just do nothing, to let he and his team work and keep their faith in him. Sadly though, I doubt that's going to work. The value that Elon can provide, as well as just the sheer amount of influence he has and can buy, means that Parag is probably a dead man walking and he will not be CEO for long. Now, a quick caveat here, because I get a lot of flack for my views on Tesla because quite simply, I think the stock is overvalued. But that isn't a reflection of my views on Elon, and it seems that Elon understands how this can work as well. Michael Burry has tweeted indicating his support of Elon's grab at Twitter, and Elon responded in support of Burry while making a joke at the fact that he actually shorted Tesla. At the end of the day, investments are investments. Don't get attached or emotionally involved in them. It's just totally unnecessary. And if Elon doesn't get offended by those who think Tesla is overvalued, then I'm sure you can manage to not get offended as well. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to bless the YouTube algorithm. If you want more content like this, then check out our Patreon and join our community of investors. You get access to our Discord, loads of exclusive content like insight into my portfolio and buy and sell alerts for all my own investments. There's a link in the description to masterworks.io, a site that allows you to buy fractional shares of art from world-famous artists like Banksy, which can be a great way to diversify your portfolio with non-market correlated assets. It's completely free to sign up, so if that sounds interesting, then make sure to check it out. There's also a link in the description to BlockFi, which will give you up to $250 in free Bitcoin when you use it. You can also get 9% interest on stablecoins like USDC, which is a far higher rate than you get from any savings account these days. Thank you all for watching. Stay stoic. Until next time.